Hey guys, Mike here. I am currently out of town for a fundraiser, and it's been a really good weekend so far. Something that keeps coming up with the conversations I'm having with people is testimonies. Them sharing their testimony with me sharing my testimony with them about what God's done in our lives and how we've gotten from where we were and who we were to who we are and where we are now. And as I'm having these conversations, it reminded me just how far God has taken me these past 5 years. And I was reminded of a lot, there's so much. So in other videos, I will go into more detail on certain things. But for now, I have this book here. It's called Victorious. It is a men's devotional guide written by my pastor, actually. And it's got like little daily devotional thoughts and everything. But in this book, there is journal space for you to journal what God's doing in your life and just kind of organize your thoughts. Now, I haven't written in this since, when's my last journal entry in here? February of 2021. I started this in December of 2020. So I haven't written in this since I lived in Ohio, back at the beginning of all this. I found something interesting in here when I started flipping back through the pages. Because that's the crazy thing with journaling is down the road you can go back and look at those journals and see where your mindset was, where your heart was, who you were at that time. And as I flipped through these pages, every page reminded me of God's faithfulness and mercy. And sometimes in life, we can get complacent, or we can feel like we're not doing much or we're not accomplishing anything. And then God has this way of putting people in your path or reminding you of journals and showing you what He has done, reminding you of what He has done. Isn't that the whole point of the Bible, is to encourage us and for God to show His hand in every aspect of lives. So one conversation that keeps coming up recently, and especially here this weekend, is what's your purpose for this patient saint thing? What is patient saint? Why are you doing this? And if I'm honest, I've had a little bit of trouble articulating the why. The way I sum it up is I want to foster communication and community. And I want people to be reminded and encouraged to endure in these days that we're in. And it's all true. But I started trying to remember how this started. Like where did this whole thing even originate? Because this isn't just something I thought up a year ago, or sorry, I got something in my eye. A year ago, or a month ago. The whole thing with this has been a journey. And I found something interesting in here. And so what I want to do with this mini-series, if you will, I'm not going to go into detail on every aspect of my journey. I simply want to share with you. Sometimes I'll share one passage, sometimes I'll read a few. But not only do I want to show you the starting place for Patient Saint, I want to show you who I was and where I was, Mike, back in the beginning of all this. You see, summer of 2020 is when I truly came to faith in Messiah. And between July of 2020 to July of 2021, I experienced more spiritual growth, more encounters with God than I ever have in my entire life. And so for this first episode of this mini-series, if you will, I simply want to start with one page, the day one of this journal. You see, currently I live in Oklahoma, but at the start of this journal, I was living in Ohio. And over the course of this first year, God moved me from Ohio to Oklahoma, to a community. And back in Ohio, when I first came to my faith and my understanding of certain things, I was alone. It was just me. I lived with my family, but as far as this part of the walk, I had no community, no fellowship. It was just me and God and my brothers and sisters on the live chats when I would watch church services in Oklahoma. And so, long story short, my first visit to Oklahoma was Hanukkah of 2020. My pastor, Lex Meyer, the one who wrote this book, and I will link, you can get this book on Amazon if you really want to check it out. I will link it in the description. As I was coming to all of this and I started talking with the community through the live chats on the church service streams and stuff like that, one thing led to another. I ended up getting connected and talking to Lex on the phone. And he invited me to come out and visit for Hanukkah back in 2020. And I ended up sleeping on his office floor and just had this beautiful week of fellowship out there. I mean, I wasn't there for 20 minutes and some guy was inviting me to his wedding. And now that guy and his family is one of my closest friends. And I left after that week of Hanukkah and came back to Ohio, and God took me on a whirlwind of a journey after that. But day one of this journal, I wrote this entry on December 21st of the year 2020. And this was literally the week I got home from Oklahoma for my first trip. So like I said, this little mini series, I'm simply going to be sharing with you entries of these devotionals. And I hope that through this you see a little bit of the heart and in the beginning seeds that God planted that cultivated everything that's led to what Patient Saint is now and what he's still creating with Patient Saint. So with that, December 21st, 2020, day one. This was my first day trying a devotional and holding myself accountable. I can already tell that forming small, daily habits like this can have a big impact on my life. I need to work on better ways to memorize the daily verse, and I truly believe writing down names, things to pray for, will help me. I will attempt that this week. P.S. This is my first week being home from Oklahoma. I didn't realize how starved I was for fellowship and friendship until I was back here and without them. Though the time was short, I feel a bond with this community I haven't felt in a long time. I'm still asking God for his guidance on what to do now. Stay in Ohio or join myself to this community in Oklahoma? I don't know yet. Patience and faithfulness will tell. That's just entry one. But after that first trip, I was already starting to struggle with who I was and what God had for me. So if you want to know more, stay tuned for the next 1 or 2 journal entries that I share with you. Like I said, at the time you may not be able to see God's hand working, but when you look back, God has this way of showing you the breadcrumbs and showing you his hand in every little aspect of your life. I've seen him in mine. So stay the course, endure. You never know what he's going to do.